Well, welcome to my Hoteche 3-inch mini bench grinder review. First of all, why do I need this? Well, I work on an awful lot of model RC cars and I make various modifications to them, including things like this little metal front wing. Now, traditionally, I've cut them out of sheet metal using my Dremel, but as good as it is, it gets very, very warm and I'm worried about frying it out. Also, the battery on a bigger job regularly runs flat. I mean, it's very time consuming to do. And I use it for grinding the edges as well, which is not an absolutely ideal way of doing it. This one's had some fair use. So I wanted to get a mini grinder, for one thing, for smoothing the edges off. So this jumped out. I didn't need a big 6-inch one. And this has got this attachment on here, which will take Dremel type bits. But being mains powered, it's never going to run out of battery. It's got adjustable speed from 0 to 10,000, 3.2mm collet size on here, 150 watts in total. So I feel this should be ideal for going on my workbench here. I've got 2 cuts to do in here. So in this video, you're going to see me using the Dremel attachment in the collet on here if things go to plan. And then I'm going to use the the grinding function on here to smooth the edges off on this. So let's see what we get for our money. So I hope that explains why I've gone and bought this instruction manual. I'll look at that in a second. Quite well packed, but I'm not a big fan of this white foam. Oh, now this is ticking a lot of boxes from the outset because this looks nice and compact. This is what I wanted. I didn't want a big 6-inch grinder on the side because I want it to fit in roughly that space there. So what do we get for our money with the Hoteche 3-inch mini bench grinder? We've got grinding wheel on this side, looks like a buffing wheel on this side, and on this end here we have the attachment for fitting, I would call it the mains powered Dremel type device on there. Looks like that. Looks like this is nice and easy to remove, so if you didn't want this on here all the time, it would be fairly easy to take off. Mains cable for it. Our on-off switch, 0 to 10,000 RPM. Looks nice and easy to control on there. Feels very, very solid indeed. You've got one hole at the front there if you want to bolt it to the bench, which I probably will do, but not in this video. And what else does it come with? Some Dremel type attachments there, mini grinder, and various metal brackets, which I'm going to need to read the instructions for. Okay, well, as good as the instruction manual is, it doesn't give an awful lot of guidance, either in words or on pictures, as to what all this stuff is for. However, our grinder guard has 2 small screws here. Those go through the 2 holes here, like so, to lock the guard in place, meaning it'll keep your eyes safe, although they do recommend wearing safety glasses, as would I, when using this. Now this is the tool rest, so I'm assuming this screw goes through this hole in the side here. To start with, I was trying it from the inside, figure out it needed to go like that into there, but the screw wouldn't go all of the way in. It can't go like that because the slot is wider than the bolt, so if you've tried that, that would just fall off of there. So I'm figuring it has to go this way. Indeed, it does go on this way, but I would say in places it is very, very stiff indeed. He says that though on cue, at the last minute it frees up, and that is your tool rest. So you could sharpen a screwdriver, a chisel, anything on there. In fact, I might sharpen a chisel later on in this video. Anyway, moving on to the Dremel-like attachment. You're wondering what the tools are for. Hopefully this will come off on camera. There is a hole in the side here. If you turn that around, inside you will see a matching hole that is on the shaft, which I guess we're going to need to lock in place with that hex key. At that point you can use the spanner provided with the kit to loosen and tighten this nut, enabling you to fit your Dremel type attachment on there. Keep that hex key in there, locking it until you've locked it up nice and tight with the spanner. Now you can remove it and that is ready for use. The one thing I would say is this is going to be going all the time that the machine is plugged in. So if you're working purely on the angle grinder or the buffing side of things, you are going to want to disconnect this, because you don't want that like lying around on a bench so you could lean on it or it catch on something else, particularly if you've got children or pets around, although obviously keep this thing well away from children. Seems to have a decent weight in there. Once you can screw it down to the bench through that hole, I'm not convinced it actually needs to start with, although if you're doing a big job it would maybe vibrate away from you. Anyway, let's power it up and get to work. And it does come with some spare parts, which I guess are for the electric motor side of things. They look like some little carbon brushes on there. So keep those nice and safe along with the 2 tools. For the purposes of today's test, I've got a bit of cutting to do on this piece of aluminum. So I am going to put my Dremel cutting wheel in. Relatively easy to change these over. Now, as I mentioned, the danger of this rotating all the time is, obviously, if I was to leave that cutting wheel on the bench and turn the power on, that thing could go flying across. So a little bit of care needed when working with this. Okay, moment of truth, got power on. Does it all work? Yes, and you can see this is turning immediately at the same time. So you wouldn't want that on there all the time. So you will need to disconnect this if you're just wanting to use the grinding wheel on here. In terms of the RPM, oh man, huge amount of power on there. Can quite well believe that 150 watts. The one thing I would say is it's very, very smooth and it's very, very quiet indeed. Unlike me cutting through this surface, but I will finish it on my own, but let's have a go. Well, I can safely say this is going to do this cutting job in about 1/10 of the time my existing Dremel does. That is only with it on about 3/4 speed on there. I didn't want to go too high because I'm going to risk the disc flying apart and hitting me in the eye, but that is going to make very, very short work of cutting with this indeed. Likewise, think of using the grinding stones on here and it will tick all of the Dremel attachments pretty much. 3.2mm chuck in there. Anyway, let me do the second cut off camera, then let's grind around this edge using the grinding disc and smooth it out, and then I'm going to try sharpening a chisel on it. Okay, well, it's quite quiet until you start cutting. Well, what I would call a Richie whoa moment, as I say. I will show you the good and the bad and hide nothing away on this channel. When I was doing the second cut using this, started to slow up and then completely stop, pulled it away from the work, it would speed up again. When I disconnected this end to see what the problem was, if there was anything in there, all of this cable began to come out, which I did not think was a good sign. This, I had to get a pair of pliers in and undo that because it is actually threaded on there. The end of it is non-existent in there, and the other end has snapped off completely in the other end in there, and the whole cable comes out and it has cut itself loose at this end, so it is not attached to anything on there. So whilst this was cheap, this is definitely going back to Amazon. As I say, show you the bad and the good on this channel, but is it any good at grinding? Well, let's have a look and see. I had high hopes with this, very, very disappointed in that indeed, as that was one of the main things I bought it for. But in terms of its grinding capability, let's have a look and see. Oh, a few more revs on there. Okay, well, just a little test on there. That smoothed off the rough edges on there without any problem whatsoever. So as you can tell, I'm a little bit disappointed from this because I had high hopes of using that attachment and doing a full demo of it, and very disappointed it didn't cut through. This is not that thick aluminum at all, and even my Dremel will cut through this without having the problems that did. But low speed, pretty good. Round those edges off nicely. Slows up a little bit, but if you've got more revs on there, then not a lot seems to trouble it. So, a short but sweet review of the Hoteche 3-inch mini bench grinder. I would say I was quite pleased with the look of it. It feels very well built indeed. It's very quiet, very low vibration. It's not wanting to walk itself across the bench. It would actually see no need to even screw it down at the minute on that. But the fact that attachment for the grinder broke on there so easily before it even finished my second cut, very disappointed on that indeed. But like I say, on this channel, this is real life and we had nothing away from you. So if you like the honesty of this review, then give it the thumbs up, and by all means like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Well, thumbs up if you like this video, guys. Post any comments you might have in the comment section below the video and hit the circle below to subscribe. And if you do hit the circle, don't forget to hit the bell.